Welcome software developers, tech leads, and indie builders like Master to this urgent explainer on the rapidly evolving economics of AI tooling. Look, if you've been building or even just using AI agents lately, you've probably felt this subtle, but honestly massive tectonic shift happening right under your feet. Have you noticed your API bills quietly creeping up? Or maybe some of your absolute favorite developer tools suddenly gating their features behind these really strict usage limits? Well, today we're going to unpack exactly what that shift is. We're drawing directly from recent industry announcements, massive pricing restructures, and the latest developer trends to show you that we are moving entirely away from the era of unchecked AI exploration and plunging headfirst into a rigorous new era of AI economics. So let's get right into it.
Let's just shatter a common illusion right off the bat, okay? The AI race is no longer just about raw intelligence and benchmark scores. Up until very recently, the marketing playbook for AI developer tools was so simple. Just boast about a higher IQ, maybe a larger context window, or better test scores. But as of April 2026, the real battlefield has fundamentally changed. The core question for tech leads and indie hackers isn't who has the smartest model anymore. The critical make or break question has actually become who can sustain the actual cost of running it.
So here is how the entire industry is pivoting. That flat-rate AI model you're used to, where vendors basically absorb the massive variable costs of our astronomical token usage just to get us completely hooked on their ecosystems, yeah, that's dead. It's completely unsustainable. The new reality stepping in to take its place is operational accounting. In this new paradigm, the focus shifts incredibly sharply to granular cost transparency, really strict budget control, and precise usage metrics. The Wild West of unlimited generation is officially over, and the accountants have arrived.
Here is our roadmap for this explainer. We're going to cover the paradigm shift to usage-based billing, why agents are now infrastructure, the multi-cloud era, building a thin ops layer as your absolute best moat, and finally, a concrete action plan for builders.
Starting with Section 1, the paradigm shift from subscriptions to usage. To really understand this macroeconomic shift, let's look at a concrete example. GitHub recently came out and declared that the flat-rate premium request model is totally unsustainable. So starting June 1st, Copilot shifts entirely to an AI credit system. The real literal cost of tokens and caching is now being directly passed to you, the user. And what does that mean in practice? Well, previously, you might hit a premium request limit, right? And the system would just quietly fall back to a cheaper model behind the scenes, so your workflow wasn't interrupted. The vendor essentially ate that cost. But that safety net? Gone. Poof. Now, limits and costs are strictly enforced. AI is shifting from a fun, nice-to-have software feature into a strict profit and loss reality. Honestly, if you aren't managing your balance sheet, your agent might just bankrupt your side project.
Moving into Section 2, agents are infrastructure and the dual cost.
This brings us to a fairly harsh reality. AI tools are no longer simple software features. They aren't just a basic API call you ping for a quick little text completion. We need to completely redefine the agent. Think of it now as a digital laborer. It physically takes up computing space, time, and server resources. When an AI agent checks out a branch, runs your tests, reads all that repository context, and generates a code fix, it is demanding two entirely different types of resources. You have your inference costs, which is the brain power, the model's actual reasoning, and you have your execution costs, which is the physical environment, the virtual machine runtime, and the compute server doing the heavy lifting. You are paying for the brain, absolutely, but you are also paying for the body.
And this next point brilliantly illustrates our new reality. Using agentic tool calling architectures means paying for that brain and that body simultaneously. Again, starting June 1st for private repositories, a Copilot code review doesn't just hit one quota. It will drain your AI credits for the tokens used and simultaneously drain your GitHub Actions minutes for the server time it takes to process the context. You are draining both buckets at the exact same time. This dual cost structure is a massive wake-up call, guys. If you're building tools, you have to hunt down where the execution costs are hidden, not just look at the base API price of the model. Just look at the massive variance in the underlying costs of these models. Even though OpenAI's GPT 5.5 might use fewer tokens to complete a task, it's heavily positioned for complex agentic coding. At $30 per million output tokens, it is significantly more expensive than Gemini 3.1 Pro at $12. Just because a model gets smarter, the service doesn't automatically get cheaper. In fact, there's a huge, kind of funny irony here. Highly intelligent models actively encourage us to ask for wild, massive, multi-step tasks, which just inflates the token count right back up. High intelligence demands rigorous, absolute budget management. All right, Section 3, the era of multi-cloud and ops and the end of monopoly. Take a look at the recent shift in the Microsoft OpenAI partnership. This amended agreement now allows OpenAI to sell its products across any cloud. That proves flexible deployment and predictable revenue are now being prioritized over platform exclusivity. Sure, Microsoft remains a primary partner, but that absolute, locked-in exclusivity is gone. Frontier model builders realize that tying themselves to a single cloud chokes their growth. They want multi-cloud flexibility, and they want to be literally everywhere you deploy code. As a builder, your architecture absolutely needs to reflect that same exact flexibility.
Get this. In just the first quarter of 2026 alone, the Key to Developer platform saw 465 posts specifically about personal dev plus AI. Now, why does that random number actually matter to us? Because 465 posts in a single quarter completely surpasses the entire year of 2025. This explosive growth in Japan's major developer community signals a monumental shift in mindset. Builders are desperate to understand how to actually operate these tools at scale. The conversation has completely moved on from, should I use AI, to, how do I keep this AI running all day without breaking my bank or crashing my entire system?
We are seeing developers increasingly demanding long-term session stability, faster runner boots, and robust tool connections over just flashy new foundation models. The changelogs tell the real story here. Recent updates to claude-code, specifically version 2.1.121, focused heavily on preventing memory leaks and stabilizing long session histories. Similarly, GitHub worked tirelessly to make their cloud agent boot 20% faster using custom images. The market is basically screaming for systems that don't stall, don't leak memory, and boot up instantly. Right now, raw reliability is trumping raw intelligence every single time.
Section 4, why a thin ops layer is your new moat. If the big foundation models are becoming interchangeable, off-the-shelf commodities, where is the actual value generated? Well, the crucial point is that the real financial moat moving forward is building a thin ops layer based on these 4 key pillars. Think of this thin ops layer like an incredibly stingy project manager. You route the simple formatting tasks to the cheap models, and you only wake up the incredibly expensive GPT 5.5 or Claude Opus calls strictly for heavy debugging. You wrap everything in strict budget observation. You build in automatic retries for session stability, and you make sure your app can swap vendors at a moment's notice. The true value is in the operation, not the model itself.
Which brings us to Section 5, the action plan for builders. Let's get into the playbook.
Let's talk about what you literally need to do with your code today. In the short term, you must stop treating AI as a fixed cost. Deconstruct your daily workflows. Are you using a premium model just to write boilerplate tests? Stop. Route simple queries to cheaper models and actively track your tool usage in a central dashboard so you can actually see your daily API burn rate. Finally, bake in stability features immediately. Ensure you have stability features like always load protocols for your model context protocol tools. You want to completely avoid those costly, unnecessary session restarts.
Now midterm, your automated tasks absolutely must have strict execution boundaries. Set up lightweight default routing, and most importantly, put a hard monetary cap on your agent runners. We've all heard the horror stories, right? An agent fails a build, automatically retries 50 times over the weekend in a runaway while loop, and racks up a massive server bill. Remember, you aren't just paying for the tokens, you are paying for the server runtime 50 times over. You need to calculate those failure costs and set boundaries before you ever let an agent loose on your repository.
Finally, your long-term success lies in building systems where the AI provider can be easily swapped out. Don't build a product that entirely relies on one specific vendor's quirk. Build budget-controlled templates that seamlessly plug in to whichever model is the most cost-effective that quarter. This ensures your workflows remain profitable regardless of how vendor pricing fluctuates. There is a huge difference between surviving and thriving here. The startups that thrive won't be the ones that just casually say, "We use AI." They'll be the ones that can prove their AI accomplishes a specific task at a precisely justified cost.
So, as this whole era of all-you-can-eat flat-rate AI vanishes, the ultimate question is no longer how smart is your AI. The question you absolutely must ask yourself is my AI's cost actually justifiable to my business? The developers who master operational accounting, who architect for efficiency, transparency, and tight operational control are the ones who are going to own the next decade of software. So start building your ThinOps layer today. Thanks so much for joining me for this explainer, and I will catch you in the next one.